Well, happy Wednesday, everybody. Thanks for taking a moment to join me today, and welcome to my office. I'm here in my office because we're doing some renovating in our basement, in our studio here at the church. And here I am in my office. And I just want to make mention, too, that because of some of that renovations, and more importantly, because it's summer, we're going to take a little bit of a break from Good News Wednesday. And I have something else planned for over the summer. It has to do with summer reading. So stay tuned for that. But as far as videos and stuff, I'm going to take a little break from that. But enough of that. I want to encourage you today. Check out this story. It's a cool little story that happened earlier today. There was a message that came from somebody in my family who will remain anonymous. And that message said, Dad, if you're going to do some gardening, you better be careful because I just almost stepped on a snake. Yeah, so somebody in my family was coming out the door of our house, and apparently there was a little garden snake. I'm sure it's not a big deal, but it was there. It kind of scared them, surprised them. And so my question to you today is, what are you afraid of? I know there's some people out there that are afraid of snakes. And are you afraid of snakes? What do you think? Let me know. I would love to know what you're afraid of. And I do need to do some gardening. My garden's not looking great, but I don't think I should stop gardening because there's a little garden snake around. Maybe I'll just make a lot of noise before I do some things in the garden. But friends, there are things in life that we're afraid of that keep us from taking that next step. So, for example, in this situation, if there was somebody in my family that was so afraid of snakes that now they won't step outside, I'm not saying that's the case, but that's what happens sometimes. Our fears take over, and when our fear takes over, it keeps us from taking that next step. And I don't think that's going to keep us in our house. The idea that there's a garden snake around. It's just a part of living and living where we do, right? But some people get so afraid. Sometimes we get so afraid of things. So, what I've been thinking about ever since I got this message today is, what am I afraid of? And I want to ask you that question today. What are you afraid of? What are you so afraid of that it's keeping you from taking the next step? And sometimes we know what we need to do, we know what we should do, but we're afraid, and fear paralyzes us and it keeps us from taking that next step. And so today, I simply want to encourage you to take the next step. If there's something that you're afraid to do, have the courage to act and take the next step. If you know it's the right thing to do, then take the next step. Don't allow fear to paralyze you. There's a story in the Bible in Matthew chapter 14. It's a wonderful story of where Jesus actually, you should read the story, but if not, I'll paraphrase it for you. Jesus actually walks on water. His friends are in a boat. He needs to get there and he walks on water. I know it's a miracle because it's not humanly possible, is it? Or is it? Because his friends are terrified as they see him coming. They think maybe it's a ghost or something, but he reassures them they don't have to be afraid. And then one of the people in the boat speak up. And they actually say, hey, if it's really you, like, tell me to come. And in that moment, Peter takes a step. And he actually, for a moment, walks on water. Now, sometimes we want to jump to the end of the story, which is, well, then he gets afraid. See, our fear paralyzes us. Our fear stops us from accomplishing the things that God wants us to accomplish. And so in that moment, Peter did actually take a step and walk on water. He did eventually become afraid again and sink, but let's just take a step. And that's what I want to encourage you today to do, is to take a step. Have the courage to act. And when you put your trust in Jesus, as Peter did, in that moment when you take your step, something amazing could happen, something miraculous, something you could do, something, accomplish something that you could have never done otherwise because you put your trust in Jesus, you depend on God, and you take the next step. So friends, as you go about your day today, have courage and take that next step. I don't know what that next step is for you, but don't allow fear to paralyze you. Prayerfully consider that today. Think about it. What's the next step that God wants you to take? Let him give you the courage to do it. Step out of the boat. Have a great day.